Hi everybody, it's Miss Katie. Welcome to Circle Time at my house again. Let's get started by saying the pledge. Stand up. Hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very good, you guys. All right, let's do the calendar together. Let's start by talking about what month it is. We said goodbye to April and hello to May. Very good. Okay, let's talk about what day of the week it is. Yesterday was Tuesday, so that means today is what comes after Tuesday? Wednesday. Awesome job. Today is Wednesday. Today is Wednesday. All day long. All day long. Yesterday was Tuesday. Tomorrow will be Thursday. So let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. Very good, you guys. So today is Wednesday. Now, yesterday was Tuesday, May 19th. So let's figure out what day of May today is. So let's count together and see what number we're on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And what comes out after 19? Good job! 20. This is the number 20. It's a 2 and a 0 right next to each other. That makes the number 20. Very good, you guys. Awesome job. So today is Wednesday, May 20th, 2020. Awesome job, you guys. All right, let's sing a song together and have a little break before we talk about our map, okay? So do you guys know the song if you're happy and you know it? All right, let's do that, but we're going to add some animals today, okay? If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're an elephant and you know it, stomp your feet. If you're an elephant and you know it, stomp your feet. If you're an elephant and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're an elephant and you know it, stomp your feet. Let's do crocodile next. If you're a crocodile and you know it, snap your jaws. If you're a crocodile and you know it, snap your jaws. If you're a crocodile and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're a crocodile and you know it, snap your jaws. Let's do one more. Let's do a lion. If you're a lion and you know it, say roar, roar. If you're a lion and you know it, say roar, roar. If you're a lion and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're a lion and you know it, say roar, awesome job, you guys. All right, let's talk about what country we live in. Does anybody remember what country we live in? Right, the United States of America. And what is the capital of the United States of America, you guys? Right, Washington, D.C. Very good. And who lives in the capital? Who lives in Washington, D.C.? The president. Yes, and does anybody remember his name? Very good, Donald Trump. He's the president. And where does the president live in Washington, D.C.? What house does he live in? Does he live in the greenhouse? No, he lives in the White House. Very good, you guys. And we live in a state. We live very close to Washington, D.C., but we don't live in Washington, D.C. We live in a state, and it's called Maryland. Very good, you guys. Amazing. Okay. Last part of Circle Time today is we are going to read a book. And the book I have today is called Chester the Brave. It's about a raccoon. So let's get started. Chester Raccoon sat snuggled in his mother's lap. The last golden rays of sundown shone through their tree hole, and his younger brother Ronnie lay curled up fast asleep on the far side of their hollow. "This is my very best time," Chester told his mother, lifting his eyes to hers. "This is my very best time, too," she told him sweetly. "Do you still want me to tell you about the little robin?" "Yes, please." "Well," Mrs. Raccoon began her story, "he stepped up to the edge of his nest, bent his little legs, lifted his tiny wings, and said, 'I can't, I'm too afraid,' and hopped back into the safety of his nest." "He was too afraid to fly?" asked Chester. "Yes, he was," answered Mrs. Raccoon. Chester looked very worried. He drooped his head and stuck out his lower lip. Did the little robin think it was okay to be afraid? "He thought it meant he wasn't brave," explained Chester's mother. "You see, the little robin's brother and sister flew their very first time, and he thought that meant they were very brave. And if they were very brave, he thought it meant he wasn't." Chester appeared very upset. "Was he right?" he asked his mother. Mrs. Raccoon smoothed out the fur on top of Chester's head. "Well, the little robin's father told him that it wasn't that his brother and sister were brave, it was the fact that they simply weren't bothered." Chester lifted his head and peered up at his mother. "What does that mean?" Mrs. Raccoon laughed. "The little robin wasn't sure what it meant either, so his father asked him if he was bothered when he was eating worms." "Oh, yuck," shrieked Chester. "That's disgusting." "What did he say?" "He said he wasn't bothered eating worms at all. He said he loved eating worms, especially the big, long, thick, stretchy kind." "Oh, blech!" bleated Chester. His nose and mouth twisted and squished together, and his entire body shuddered. "Eating worms would bother me." Mrs. Raccoon nodded. "It would bother me too," she confessed. Then the little robin's father asked him if he was bothered when he was singing, and the little birdie began tweeting and said he wasn't bothered when he was singing at all. "Singing is a lot better than eating worms," grimaced Chester. "I agree," said Mrs. Raccoon. Then the little bird's father told him that being brave wasn't about flying when he wasn't bothered to fly. Being brave was about flying when he was bothered to fly, but found the courage to fly anyway because he knew he must. Then his father asked him if he was bothered when he was reciting his flying lessons in front of all the other little birdies who nested in our tree. The poor little robin got all aflutter. He hopped up and down and flapped his wings just like he did the time the skunk sprayed our tree from down below. The little robin said that reciting his lessons in front of all the other little birds was the worst thing he had ever had to do in his whole life. Suddenly Chester began to tremble, and he nestled deeper into his mother's soft, comforting arms. "What's the matter?" his mother asked. "Reciting lessons in front of the other animals at Owl Teacher's School is the worst thing I have ever had to do in my whole life, too," he whimpered. "Is that so?" asked Mrs. Raccoon. She gave Chester a reassuring hug and then took his tiny hand in hers and gently kissed the center of his palm. "Shall I tell you what happened to the little robin, or would you rather jump on top of Ronnie and wake him up for school?" Chester giggled. "I want to know what happened to the robin." Well, the very next day, the little robin's mother tucked one of her own tiny flight feathers into his wing and told him it was for good luck. So even though he was still bothered about reciting his lessons, the tiny bird stood in front of all the other birdies in our tree and twittered, "I lift my head to the clouds, I push off with my feet, I flap my wings and let the gentle breeze take me for a ride." And while he was still afraid to fly, he found the courage he needed and said to himself, I am very brave. Then he stepped up to the edge of his nest, spread his wings, pushed off with his feet, and flew away. After all, he was a very brave little robin. Hooray, clapped Chester. Do you know what I think being brave is? Asked Mrs. Raccoon. Chester shook his head. I think being brave is about 3 little words. Think, tell, do. If you think you can't, tell yourself you can, and do it. Mrs. Raccoon lifted Chester's hand. Can you see my kiss in your palm? Chester laughed. No. Well, you know it's there, and it's for luck, just like the robin's little feather. Chester jumped off his mother's lap, bent his knees, opened his arms, and yelled, I am very brave. Then he ran to the other side of the hollow, and with a flying leap, landed on top of his brother. Wake up, Ronnie, it's time for school. Chester the Brave has a speech to make. Later that night, Chester Raccoon stood on a branch at Owl Teacher's school. He remembered what his mother said about think, tell, do. If I think I can't, I tell myself I can and do it. And he found the courage he needed to tell himself, I am very brave. Then he opened his hand, and there, in the middle of his palm, was his mother's gentle kiss for good luck. And even though Chester was still the tiniest bit afraid, he recited his lesson in front of all the other animals. After all, Chester is a very brave little raccoon. The end. I hope you guys enjoyed the story. I will see you guys tomorrow for circle time. Bye. Have a great day.